Hi. Um, have you ever had a child with learning disabilities cry to you that they just want to be normal and be around other kids and go to school like everybody else? Have you ever had a child tell you that they want to grow up and get a job and get married and have a family and be on their own just like everybody else does or is going to do? Have you ever asked a parent of a child with learning disabilities what they would like for their child that they love as much as you love yours? Well, here's a few reasons why you need to stop and think about this. In today's society, there are more and more children with known diagnosed learning disabilities. What would you want in place if your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, a friend's child, or a relative of any other sort that had a learning disability? Would you want them separated from the normal kids and curriculum because of their disability? Or would you want them included and encouraged to try and do what everybody else is doing? I myself have a son with Asperger's syndrome, which entails several different aspects from social and emotional impairment to various learning disabilities. Even though individuals feel that it takes time away from students without disabilities, having the right help in place in normal settings help these children excel, because children with learning disabilities have a right to an education in a normal classroom. And having children in normal classroom settings helps all children learn and grow and become productive members of society and be able to get jobs. First, I'm going to discuss the Individuals with Disabilities Act, which is labeled as IDEA. Secondly, I'm going to explore how it helps children with disabilities by being in a normal classroom setting. And then I finally am going to explain that it also helps the normal children without disabilities to have children with disabilities included in their normal classroom setting. The Individuals with Disability Act requires that placement options be available to meet the needs of students with disabilities. The law was first passed in 1975, and it requires that the maximum extent appropriate children with disabilities are to be educated with children who are not disabled, and that special classes, special schooling, or other removal of children with disabilities from the regular environment occurs only if there is the nature or severity of the disability makes it the education in regular classes with the use of supplementary aids and services can't be obtained satisfactorily. There's several learning and emotional as well as physical disabilities covered under this act. The law requires that the school hold an eligibility meeting to see if the child qualifies for special education. If they do, the parent works with the school and their team to develop an IEP, which is an individualized education program for the student. The law gives parents a way to have a say in the educational decisions that the school makes for their child. The law gives the parents specific rights and protections. The results of the law are shown every day in schools, with children with disabilities being in normal classrooms and eventually graduated and either getting jobs or continuing their education at higher levels. Okay, now that I've covered the main point of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, I'm going to explore on how it helps children with learning disabilities to be in the normal classroom setting. This is some of the lists of what the Individuals with Education Act does do. And it was This was last updated in 1990. The main thing is you need to know how it helps children with learning disabilities to be in a normal classroom. One thing that I found that one of my son's teachers actually has in her classroom is this sign, and it reads, "Fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need in order to be successful." And that's the main point in the Education with Disabilities Act, is just for everybody to be successful. And everybody has a different opinion what that might be. That's why students with disabilities actually do better when they're in a setting where more is expected of them. That sounds kind of funny, but it is fact. When they're segregated to specialized classrooms, there's a potential for stigmatization, ridicule, and self-condemning. And teachers, believe it or not, tend to treat them students as less capable compared to so-called normal students, when they're actually not less capable. They just sometimes have a different way of learning. And like I say about my son, and it's easier to explain, is sometimes you have to go in the back door instead of the front door, and then he gets it. When included in normal classroom environments, these students are inspired by the positive performances of their peers, of the normal kids. They experience what it's like to be considered normal enough to learn in the regular classroom, and they rise to expectations that the teachers have, because the teachers in a normal classroom will have higher expectations. And children with disabilities, they like to show you that they can do it. So if you're giving them something just small because you know they can do it, and you're not giving them anything challenging, you're not utilizing what they're really made of. By having children with learning disabilities in the normal classrooms, they challenge us to do better. They challenge us to provide better ways to educate all of the students. They create an effective classroom to accommodate all students. Educators actually work harder on building a learning environment that provides a variety of ways in which to learn the content of the classes, which doesn't only help the normal kids, it actually helps the kids with challenges. With the inclusion of children with challenges in the normal classroom settings, we've seen a decline in suicide in these types of students. We've also seen an increase in their continuing their education past high school and gaining employment to support themselves efficiently the rest of their lives. Normal children also have many benefits of having children with challenges in their class, because they actually sometimes are held to a higher standard too than normal, because the teachers are holding the other ones to the children with challenges to a higher standard. Now that we've kind of covered why it's helpful to the students with challenges to be in a normal classroom setting, normal children also benefit very much. Students with disabilities actually add diversity to the classroom. They bring strengths. And finally, students with disabilities help promote a type of, a giving in the classroom. Students with disabilities bring what some call neurodiversity. This adds new possibilities and makes classrooms more interesting, because these students are different. They act different. Some look different, and they think differently than the normal students. These students also bring with them strength. We often focus on what they can't do and what we should be doing is looking at what they can do. For instance, creative thinking, systematic capabilities such as excellence with computers or music and things like that, personal charm, human warmth. Students with disabilities also bring to the table the promotion of giving. These students make other students want to be less selfish. Students with disabilities can actually make other students want to pitch in and work together and help each other out in class as well as outside of the classroom and even later in life. Now that we've kind of covered that stuff, I've first discussed the Individual with Disabilities Act idea, and I've explored how it helps the children with disabilities by being in normal classroom settings. And finally, I explained that it also helps children without disabilities to have children with disabilities included in the normal classroom settings with them. Remember, even though the individuals feel that it takes time away from the students, if parents feel that way, it really doesn't. It actually helps them as much as it helps the students with disabilities. They all have a right to an education in a normal setting and to be challenged and to move forward in life. And it helps all of them learn and grow and be productive members of society. A memorable moment that I have had several parents and educators come to me at different times and tell me they just don't know how I as a parent do it when it comes to my son with learning disabilities. They tell me that they would just be exhausted with all of the obstacles. I simply try to explain to them that I advocate for my son and all the other children with learning disabilities to grow and develop in the most normal educational environment possible so that they may continue to be productive members in society in as many normal situations as possible. I call to all of you to join in and take action for all of these children with disabilities that are entitled to a normal education and to help ensure the right help is in place for them to excel, because if they excel, we all excel. Please feel free to ask any questions at this point. Thanks for your time and attention to this very important matter.